Sup, everybody? Sup, Rebecca and Carrie?
Sup, everyone?
Welcome to Sup. Oh my goodness. So, you know what, Rebecca? I'm noticing some increase in pictures behind you, and I think I even got a little curious too about where they came from because I've seen them before, and they're so cool. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah, so it's this really cool series called Reflections, and I don't remember the photographer, but it is just really cool images of so the three of my favorites, there are like several, but three of my favorite is it's an older person looking into a mirror, and the reflection that they're seeing back is actually them as a young person. So there is a new mom, well, a grandmother actually, but she's seeing herself as a new mom holding her new baby, and a nurse, and also a fireman. So I just love that. And really as a reminder of that idea of meeting people where they are. This is where they are in time and space. So it's just kind of a nice reminder. I will tell you one funny fact. I was doing a little bit of polling about the pictures or no pictures. And I got all pictures except for the boss lady. Tipa said no pictures. And so I may have to take them down from time to time, but I also put it where I can do my standing desk. And you still see them.
Yes.
Yeah. So thanks for noticing. That's really nice.
Those are so awesome. I just love those. And like I said, I've seen them time and time again on Facebook. People will share those out, and I've been meaning to look into that more, but that's so cool that you have those up there.
Just Google Reflections. And also the thing that I put, this quote, which is to love someone is to sing the song in their heart back to them when they've forgotten. So, right? I knew that you would love that. I just knew that was going to get you. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, speaking of reflections and people looking at their careers and doing things with their careers, we have a really cool guest on tonight, someone who has really taken their career to the next level and done some great things with this. And so, Toni, I was wondering if Toni could join us on here.
Welcome to Sup, Toni.
Sup, Toni.
Hi, everybody. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so cool. So, Toni, you know, we've seen recently some serious activity on Facebook and other social media that you're connected to about some things that you have going on. And we'll definitely get to those because we're so excited to explore those with you. But before we go that way, I'm wondering if you could share with us about who Toni is.
Sure, Matthew. Thank you for that great introduction, by the way, and hello, fellow Packers. I have been down a long and winding road. I actually began my working career at Epcot Center in the magical kingdom of Epcot. And I spent 3 years working there. I was 18, 19, and I realized this isn't a path. It's fun. I had a great time, but it's not the end of the road. And then I moved on and I started to work for Marriott Hotels and in the dining. I worked in the Japanese restaurant, had a great time, beautiful campus. And at that time, Marriott and Sodexo had merged together and they gave us an opportunity to either stay in the hotels or to move on to the healthcare aspect. And I wanted an opportunity to do something different. And at that point is when I began my career in healthcare. Worked at many communities, many hospitals. Then I transitioned to senior living about 12 years ago. And that was it. This is where I knew I wanted to be. Working with our elders and having an opportunity just to be a change maker and make a difference in not only the food, but the style of service and the interaction with the residents. And that's where I'm at, and that's where I love to be. So with that,
Wow.
I had an opportunity. I worked with one company, and it was Sodexo for 28 years. And I decided that I needed a change. And I went to work for Unidyne, which is another food service company. And, I bring this up because I had spent so long at Sodexo, and great company, don't get me wrong, but there wasn't anything new happening. There wasn't a change in the thought process, because my peers had all been with the company as long as I had. And I just really kind of felt like I needed a new view, a new viewpoint. And that's why I transitioned to another company, and I got it, and I was happy, and I enjoyed working for them also. But it was great to have that different viewpoint, that different concept of service. And as business owners, which is the part of this meeting today, and this group today, is sometimes you have to open yourself up and take a risk to see what you can do to expand your own personal growth. And that was really helpful for me. And it helped me to understand that I can do it. I can be successful. I checked off my corporate bucket list, and I was satisfied with the move. And at that point, I made a decision in my mind that I was ready to go out on my own and start my own company, which is Dinnerware. Dinnerware HC standing for healthcare.
Yeah, that's so awesome. So you were lots of experience. Oh my gosh, lots of experience working in an environment where there's so much going on. I mean, think, for some of us who have no idea what happens, whether it's in a food service setting or a restaurant setting, all of the pieces that all have to work together and the cogs that all have to go well so that machine can work as well as it needs to help give people what they're looking for. And quite frankly, in an environment that can be kind of like harsh when it comes to giving feedback sometimes, but ultimately it led you to start your company. And so I'm curious, what were some of those things that you were seeing with all of your experiences that led you to starting your company? Because you shared with me when we had talked before about just different things you started to see in just what you were doing in the companies that you were working for, and maybe some of the lack of vision that they had in support that was needed. So what were some of those things that you were seeing that was like, I got to do something more?
Yes, Matt, for sure. Part of, I don't know if anyone's heard the phrase, stay in your lane. Just stay in your lane, do what you're supposed to do, and just keep it moving. And part of that challenge when you're in a community, whether it's a hospital or senior living, memory care, assisted living, doesn't matter what it is that the departments tend to work in silos. Nursing does nursing, food does food, housekeeping does housekeeping, PT does PT, and everyone has their own little world, and they're working in their worlds. As a vendor and a contractor, we were held to a different standard, really, running the dining, and which was fine, because you know what, food is a critical piece of the healthcare of a resident. So what I did observe were the interactions with the staff and with the residents. And trust me, I have seen easily 100+ accounts. So it's no one account. And they're all at different levels of care. They're all at different levels of having equipment, staffing, how the leadership embraces the staff. So how, it comes from the top down, the behavior. And what I saw was like, we can do better than this. And particularly, initially were the clothing protectors for the residents. So it was either these horrible plastic baggies that they wrapped around, or these industrial terry cloth numbers that had the Velcro that had 1,000 washes worth of thread stuck inside the Velcro. And that was one of the initial products that my company started out with, was the clothing protectors. And it was my tag was dining with dignity. But not only that, was when you see them, see the residents being fed, and they had those half moon tables, and it was almost just like feeding birds type of deal. And there wasn't the correct interaction, and I felt care that was going on. It was almost like the residents weren't there as a person, as an individual. It was just a task that needed to be done, which we know is totally opposite of what we should be doing. And that is what led me to, get the continuing education and focus on the dementia training and interaction with the residents. And that's where TIPA and her, methodology is, I 100% embrace and endorse it. And that caught my eye. And that was it. I was hooked at that point.
Yeah, and oh my gosh, how many times do we hear that from folks that come on SUP or even just out in social media about they see TIPA and they're hooked right away, or they immediately drink the Kool-Aid.
Mm-hmm.
And you told us a bit about your company, Dinnerware HC, and you were making the clothing protectors for folks, for places, just to do something more than just this horrible. And I've seen so many of them, and they melt in the dryers half the time, and then they try to oh my gosh, they're just
Yeah.
I'm so glad people are trying.
What's great about the clothing protectors is that can be turned into a social event. Mealtime should be a social event. And if they're able to utilize the clothing protectors, my dining scarves, which have different patterns and colors and everything, and go to the table with a basket and to present to, the resident and say, Mrs. Smith, I know you love cats. Look, I've got 2 different cat ones. Do you like the pink one or the blue one? And for Mr. Harvey, well, we've got the tools, or we've got a nice plaid or tartan pattern. And then as they put them on, because generally they're able to put it on themselves, it just starts a conversation, as opposed to sitting there waiting and watching the TV or staring at the window, or they're not talking to each other. And the staff, it helps to engage because it becomes fun. And it's just that social aspect at mealtime is just critical. And if we can learn to embrace that, as opposed to, on the staffing's point of view, it being a task that they have to check off with their agendas, that will only increase the satisfaction of the resident, but also, I'm going to say 99% of the time, the consumption of the food. And if they're getting that proper nutrition and hydration, then it's going to lead to a healthier resident.
Yeah, so true. And what a great point of how the more you can increase somebody's pleasure and comfort, especially at mealtime, the better the chance is that they're going to want to eat. They're going to want to be there. It's not going to be just something that they were told they have to go down and do. They have to sit in this place. They know that if they don't eat anything, someone's going to come by and tell them, look, you got to eat something, eat some of this, eat some of that. Come on, you have to do this. So making it more of an enjoyable experience is such an important thing. And so what other services, as time went on, and we know, you were talking about, you had that exposure to TIPA and you were hooked. But before we get into that first experience and kind of talk about that piece of your journey, what else service-wise did you provide with your company to these different places or different facilities that were needing more support or needing some of those awareness pieces of what else they could do?
One of the other main, I feel like I've tried a lot of different products based on feedback. I worked at one or supported a community in Washington, D.C., and I received a lot of feedback and ideas, like, tell me what it is that you're looking for that you can't get out of a catalog. What are some things that you feel that the residents need and would appreciate? So I went from doing what I called a cozy cover. It was basically a fleece poncho, because when they were taking the residents out for their doctor's appointments, what did they do? They draped a sheet around them, or they draped a blanket around them. It's like, come on, we can do better than that. And what are they doing when they're taken to the showers to keep them warm and comfortable? And, you know, as we know that you can bathe with some articles of clothing on, so the fleece was perfect because it's more or less water repellent, but it just serves as a dignified way to help them either be transported or in the bathing. I also make fidget quilts, which I love, which I happen to have one that I'm working on, and I'll show you. So here it is right here. And this is the back. I'm not done with that yet, but what I do is I'll always connect with my clients and ask them specifics about their loved one. So this is a mom, and as it turns out, it's important to ask questions. So she's paralyzed on the left side due to a stroke. So I put all of my gizmos and doodads on the right-hand side. If I had just done something generic, it just would have been whatever, and she wouldn't have been able to really enjoy or embrace everything that the blanket was offering to her. So that's just part of that communication. And as I'm talking to them, if someone, you know, you can sense when they're having a difficult time, I'll engage them in a conversation and talk about, well, you know, have you tried this? And you may want to consider that in speaking about their dementia care. So I love that. I was extremely busy over Christmas time because of, I think, the COVID, but it's just, it's really nice when loved ones are taking that extra step to help support their persons living with dementia. I also do consulting for dining, whether it's regulatory audits, it's just food safety audits. I'm a ServSafe instructor and proctor. I just completed my book. Can you see this? Hashtag Dining with Dignity, Unlocking the Mystery of Dementia and Dining. So that's being published right now. I'm super excited about that. With this, I have a commercial manual on how to put together a dementia dining program for your commercial kitchen. Memory care, skilled nursing, assisted living. And I talk about the hand under hand. I talk about the positive approach to care. I talk about all of those tools, also providing workshops for the residents, the independent residents, assisted living residents, and also for the staff, and the training to help them become more cognizant of what's happening around them. And I speak to the dining environment, what they're doing. Are the tables high enough? You know, just like simple things like that. Do you have the right adaptive equipment? Does your staff understand what the adaptive equipment is? And you just can't give Mrs. Smith any old cup. It's got to be a two-handed nosy cup. Those types of things that are really lost in translation almost with the staff because of the turnover and whatnot. It's just come in, turn and burn, get it done. But you have to understand why we do certain things certain ways and use certain tools to do certain things. So anything related to dining, I do. Anything related to dining and dementia, I do. And I'm really working to get the word out on the importance of understanding the intricacies of taking care of a person living with dementia in the dining world.
That's awesome. And I love how you had mentioned earlier about that part of finding out more about the person. How often do we see just activities kind of thrown in front of somebody, and there might not have been a lot of seeking of, do they even like to do this? Is this even something they would be interested in? And even that piece of looking to see what they can still do, where they're at in this journey. can be missed as well. And so something that's totally inappropriate that might be way more than what that person can handle in that moment is given to them. So how important that is to have that prep step and figure those things out before you start doing these things or giving folks these different items, or even looking at that dining piece itself too, that you can't just throw a weighted spoon at somebody and not really know if this is truly what they need or not, and how we need to check those things out. And with your book, and Carrie's going to throw that link up so everybody can click on there. If you're interested in getting and checking that book out, please click on that. And then also your website as well for your company, for Dinnerware HC as well. So that'll be in the chat as well. But it's so cool you found that way of integrating the hand under hand and the importance of that PPA and how those things can increase the comfort level of eating, and literally being that dining with dignity, why that's so important. So that is so awesome. We're just so excited. We're so excited when we see folks taking those skills and using those like that, and getting that out there and supporting those places that are obviously struggling with that part. And so looking at when you decided to go for PAC training, can you tell us a little bit more about that? Like, what was that first experience? Because at that point, you hadn't seen a whole lot of that hand under hand thing. You hadn't seen a lot of that piece. You really got to dig deeper with that in that training. So tell us about that experience.
It was almost scary, really, because you just knew what the end result was going to be once you mastered it. And to think you can go from 0 to 100 really quite easily was shocking, to tell you the truth. I made some really good friends. I enjoyed mingling with the group and learning all of the different steps. And it was a very comfortable space to learn it. I think that there is just this innate fear of having to deal with someone who has dementia because of the unknowns. Well, when this happens, what am I supposed to do? And you learn through experience and you learn through repetition. But once you get the basic bones down and use some common sense, and you continue to educate and watch the videos and read books and do things like that, then you just get better and better. It's really almost hard to explain, but you can't be afraid to take that leap of faith. It works. It's evidence-based. It's happening. And you just sort of, do you want to do it or not? Do you want to make a difference or not? Do you want to be helpful and set an example for other people who may be feeling the same way? Then you just need to really just take that leap of faith and learn it.
Yeah, so true. And so oftentimes when we're in the trainings or we're doing anything live with folks, it can be a little bit of a struggle to get somebody to go first, right? To try something out. And it's that worry of, ooh, I don't want to mess this up, or I want to be perfect and I got to be perfect. And if I don't do it perfect, then I'm just not going to be comfortable. And PAC does such a great job at trying to help people feel comfortable, especially when you're going through the trainings, because we realize it's hard. It's tough to change habit. It's tough to see maybe what you've been doing for so long. It might have been causing more harm than good. And now it's like, well, shoot, I really don't want to do anything now because, man, I'm just realizing that I might have been messing things up. But getting somebody to just try it out, and once you try it out, what'd you like about it? Okay, now what's the one thing you want to try different? all right, great, keep growing, keep trying that one little thing different, and how big of a difference that makes. And especially when it comes to helping people or supporting folks when they're trying to eat, because that's a pretty delicate situation. I mean, that's isn't like maybe trying to help comb some hair or maybe brush something off. I mean, this is bringing stuff up to somebody's mouth and trying to support them with that, or doing something they really don't want to do in the moment, and all of those roadblocks or those pieces that can occur, and how it does take that willingness to try it, see how it went, and then learn from it and try something new each time, so that you can really give them the opportunity to do the most they can for themselves while supporting them.
And one of the coolest things about this training that you get and the support that you get is they tell you the why. It's just not go through these motions. It's like, this is why you do it like this. This is what happens. This is how their brain is able to function, and the social and the memory muscle and things like this. And when you tap the cup or you tap the spoon against someone's lips, then they're going to automatically open, and you have to give them an opportunity to do for themselves. And you're likely to be successful if you put the brakes on and take your time. And you have to understand, you've got to know your resident. You've got to understand what stage they're at. You've got to understand their likes and dislikes and the reasons why they may not want to eat. Well, it just could be something so simple as, well, they just don't like peas. They can see that it's peas and they hate peas. I personally, if I saw a plate of peas, I would not be cracking my lips open either. So you've got to understand their likes and dislikes and go from that, but also really understanding how the body and the mind will respond to things that you do to really initiate the action of eating, the action of drinking, the action of whatever, combing your hair or buttoning a shirt. And we're taught how to understand, when you do this, this will happen. And I just think that's fabulous. It's in my type of mind, I've got to understand why. I'm just not going to just do it. I need to understand why. And that'll help you down the road as you encounter, the different situations and different capabilities of these folks. And there's no cookie cutter to anything, but you take the basics and you go with it and you see what happens. And the good thing is, if I make a mistake today or this moment with someone, then you know what? I can always come back in an hour or half an hour or tomorrow and try again. And at some point, I'm going to figure it out and we'll get through it.
Yeah, and I love how you're pointing out that piece of you're a why person, and how important it is to recognize who it is that's learning this information and how it helps them to connect this all together, so that they can get the training as good as they feel comfortable, or how they feel comfortable. That's how they take it in. And so connecting those brain slides that we see, or the PET scan, seeing how dementia progresses, and then connecting it to, oh, this is why we see what we see. This is why in these moments they need this kind of support, or if we're seeing this is what's going on. And how that can make a big difference to help somebody really get it and start to invest in it and try it out and feel comfortable with it. So looking at how you've evolved over time, and the different services you've provided, and the training and writing a book, and then COVID hits. Yep. And so what shifts did you have to make when it came to COVID, and staying out there and doing what you could, and then even up to now, and how it's looking going forward, as we're hopefully looking at kind of coming out of all of this stuff and opening up more. So tell us how that's affected you and where you've gone with it.
Well, COVID was a bummer on several different levels. for my business and my activity, it really shut it down because, as you all know, they were closing the doors to these communities where you couldn't come in, which was fine, totally understandable. I get it. So you kind of had to switch gears to, all right, if I wasn't doing virtual before, I need to figure out how to do it now. And that meant adapting some of the training tools that I had, some of the messages that I had, so that it made sense with the virtual training. For example, to do the hand under hand, it's like, okay, well, how, unless I have someone stand here for me to do that, that hand action. And then I saw a lot of my peers came up with some really incredible ideas about what to do to have the dummy hand. Oh, I get a feeling you're going to whip it out. Yeah, exactly. And so, your first instinct is to go, oh gosh, what am I going to do now? And then the creativity kicks in and you go to plan B or you go to plan C and you make it happen. I also utilize the time to really clean up my files, to get things together, to dump a lot of dead wood that I had laying around. When I spent time working on the book, I really jump started into that because it was something, where I was literally traveling all the time. I didn't have time. I don't have time to focus on something. Well, now I had plenty of time. So let me get myself together and get it going. And that was great. I did do a lot of continuing education. I watched, oh my gosh, videos, video, webinar, but it was all good because then I was able not to only look at my existing line of work, center of my life, but I was able to branch out into some business education also. One of the groups here in Long Island, which I believe it's a national program, is called SCORE, and that's SCORE. And they're a not-for-profit business mentoring group. So they provide free mentors. There's a whole laundry list. You can pick the mentor that you want to work with and get just some good feedback and get a different perspective because they don't understand what we're doing. These are people that work in, they are professionals, successful professionals, but chances are they sat behind a desk. They're not operators per se. So when you explain something to them, particularly in my field, it's their eyes are like, oh, I didn't know that. But what they could help me with was helping me in developing my business plan, to help me in understanding things about taxes and insurance and those types of things, which working for a company, I never had to be bothered with it. But now as a business owner, I need to be very careful about what I'm doing. I need to understand the steps to take in order to protect myself and to protect my money that's coming in, my precious money, so that I'm being smarter and whatever I'm doing needs to have a mission behind it. There has to be the goals developed. So that's really what COVID did. In one sense, it really helped me with my educational piece. It helped me get the book done. It helped me to increase my comfort level of doing webinars and whatnot. And I got to meet a lot of new people. I really expanded my network tremendously. So it's all good. It's all good. And I'm glad that we're turning the corner on this finally, thank goodness. And, there's more accessibility to be out in the field and to present and bring our skills as outsiders to these different communities.
Yeah, so true. And you mentioning about how you kind of went through this process of reflecting on your own self and your own business and so what can I do now that I didn't have time for? What can I start sharpening up and where can I do some cleanup and what can I do from here? And you mentioned something too about preparation. You were talking about I was getting ready because I knew things were going to turn around. I knew there was going to be that point when we could go back. And so I needed to prep for that. And you were prepping for some good reasons too, because you had some people knocking on your door. So can you tell us a little bit about those people who were knocking on your door?
Well, before I go into that, I was working, a former manager of mine, she was working in the business segment and she got laid off. So I had asked her, I said, well, what are you doing in the meantime? She goes, oh, I'm doing this, that, and the other. And I said, okay. So that was in the beginning. So that was like maybe April, March, April, May, maybe June of last year. So then we connected again around Christmas time. So I said, all right, so what have you been doing? Are you getting ready? Are you working on your resume? And she's like, well, nothing really. And I'm like, what do you mean nothing? At some point you're gonna have to go back to work, okay? You can't just ride this, unemployment gravy train forever. And, unemployment insurance serves its purpose. Okay, we all have paid into that our entire lives, so there's no shame in unemployment. However, at some point in time, you do need to go back to work, particularly if you're intelligent and willing and able-bodied to do it. Get off your couch and get to work. So I'm like, look at, come on, what are you going to do? What are you going to tell that employer when they ask you what you've been doing, that you learned how to play the guitar? Well, who cares? What have you done to grow your skills while you've been homebound? And what have you done to take advantage of really this free time that you can enhance your skills or learn something new to add to your portfolio as a subject matter expert on whatever related in your field? So that was my soapbox to her. I had to lay her out. It frustrated me because it was just too easy to take that road. And we all have to step up because we have our families and our future to consider. But people knocking on my door, I think once you put yourself out there and you go outside of your normal circle of people, then you just don't know what other people are going through. You don't know what they know. And when you are sort of advertising yourself and the skill set that you bring, and you're opening yourself up to opportunities, they will reach out to you, and you've got to take that hand and say, okay, well, my name's Toni. What's yours, and what do you do? And I'm interested in why are you trying to connect with me? What is it about my profile that you found to be interesting enough to want to reach out and connect? Okay, because of course by then you've looked at theirs, and then you strike up a conversation, because you don't know where anything is going to lead. I've met a lot of people that I have worked with in the past that have changed their career paths, that are doing different things that present an opportunity for me. And maybe not today, but maybe tomorrow, maybe next year.
Yeah.
And
so it's important to reach out,
open up the doors,
network, and try to open. The more you reach out and the more you connect with other folks, the more you're able to open up other doors and other opportunities. And that's how sometimes you can bring people to you, more things to you, and find out about those situations. And I love what you were mentioning before about how it helped you to grow as a person and to become more skilled with just doing what you're doing with your business, and some of the things you learned about, like with the insurance piece, and anything that would help you become a stronger owner of your business itself, which I know kind of leads us into that next piece that we were going to talk about today. Because usually we ask folks that come on, what's your advice for anybody out there who's doing something like this or very similar? And so we decided to invite the certified community to reach out to us and join us if they were willing to talk about their businesses too and what they have going on. So this is a great opportunity for us to kind of move into that part of it with the panel coming on today. So Rebecca and Crystal and Isabel, who are joining us.
Yes,
Come on,
welcome
come
to
on up.
SUP,
Welcome to
guys.
SUP.
Come on. Tony, I'm so inspired by you, honestly. And I told you this before, but people always say, oh, you should write a book, you should write a book. And I just absolutely do not have the desire. I mean, I would like to have a book published, but I don't want to do the work for it. So, I mean, that's just really being honest. So thank you. Well done. And I can't wait to buy it. So yes, congrats. So kind of rolling into that idea of, oh my goodness, so many of our certified community folks, and really on SUP, we tried to highlight folks who work for organizations as well as folks like on this panel who have their own businesses. I have my own business. I know each of you are in different stages of it. So we've already heard from Toni, but I'm wondering, Crystal and Isabel, if you can give us just a quick overview of what your business is, and then we'll kind of dive into some of those questions like budgeting and marketing and social media. And so let's start with you, Isabel. Tell us a little bit about you and your business.
So my business is called Dementia Care Professionals, but I also run under Positive Dementia Care. And I am mostly right now, I'm narrowing my focus to being a trainer and having the 3 workshops available, both to people that are just individuals that are caring for their loved one living with dementia, but also for those who are caregivers and professionals in the field. So that is my focus right now. I am a certified consultant as well, but I became a certified consultant right before the pandemic, or no, a little bit before the pandemic, and then I became a trainer like immediately before the pandemic. So that has all thrown my business for a loop because I literally just started my business in 2020. So I'm kind of like picking up the pieces for something that's very new. And I think to be more successful, I'm just narrowing my focus right now on offering the training via Zoom, since everything has gone online a lot lately. And so that's where I'm at now, and just trying to gain a social media presence, which is also not an easy thing to do. But that's where I'm heading out now. And now that things are opening up more, because I am here in Texas. And
I was just about to say.
They just announced today that they're like, no masks next week, 100% capacity next week. Not to say that I'm still not going to wear my mask, because I probably will. But it's opening up more, whereas a lot of things have been closed off to what is considered non-essential. And I'd be able to get out there and market in person more.
Yeah.
As opposed to how it's been. So so that's where I'm at now. I'm just focusing on the getting out there in social media and on the trainer aspect.
All right. So you got your trainer and consultant, and then COVID, boom. And Crystal, we've seen your comments on Certified Community. For those that are on the Facebook page, you also had a huge transition over the past year. And I remember you were actually getting which certification? And I was your mentor right as COVID was starting to come out. And those were some hard days for you.
They were really.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
Yeah. You were my mentor for the coach. So right before, or actually as it hit, I finished my coach certification and lost my full-time position as a home health speech therapist, stating that I was basically non-essential in communities that I was actually teaching tons of classes in under my trainer certification. So at that time, I had actually wanted to open my own business anyway. So it was, I believe that was God's way of telling me to actually, hello, here it is, take it and run with it. So I opened my own business. It's Sapphire State of Mind. And I partnered with a top neurologist in the Tampa Bay area, and started out 1 to 2 days a week because he wanted to try me out to make sure I was a good fit for him and that he was a good fit for me. He's had bad experiences with therapists that said they were cognitive therapists before, but I approached it differently with him, and I educated him on positive approach to care and wanted to show him the different techniques. And he said, hey, let's try it. Looks like it might work. Let's go for it. Started out 2 days a week. My schedule became full. I had a waiting list. He said, okay, I need you 3 days a week. Okay, no problem. And then within a month, it was 5 days a week. And now I have a waiting list, as I checked today, through the middle of April. A lot has happened. I actually got my foot in the door with another home health agency, just so that I could maybe put my foot in the door to do some training with their staff. And I said, I can take 1 to 2 clients a week, but I only want the challenging patients that have dementia diagnosis, because I thought if I could show them what the skills were and they could see it and they could see the difference that it made in the home, then just maybe I might be able to teach some classes. So I did that for several months, and then I reached out to their corporate office, spoke to their trainer, and this home health agency is one of the top home health agencies in the state of Florida. And I have landed my first class in April, and I will be teaching at least 15 people in the class, socially distancing. Florida is a little more open, but we are still following guidelines per the agency. So that class is a trial run to see if, we can schedule more and potentially grow that. I probably see 35 to 40 clients a week in the outpatient clinic at the neurologist office, working directly with families and people living with dementia. I use my coaching a lot with families in the clinic. And I've used a lot of the tools. It's been trial and error, but it's worked wonderfully, and I'm getting a lot of feedback. And I just recently, 2 other physicians that were local heard about my services and have been referring their clients to me just off of word of mouth. And now I've also launched my website. So I got a contact from South Carolina from an occupational therapist wanting some online coaching. So I'm starting that as well. So I have a lot of moving parts.
All right.
You do. You've got a lot of moving parts. And I love this idea that this, COVID, there was this challenge. And it sounds like you and Toni and Isabel, there was a challenge, yet you were kind of forced to step outside of your comfort zone and try something new and different. For Toni, it was a book, and for you, starting your own business. And oh my goodness, you guys, this is, so my question, I want to just dive a little bit deeper, because we are going to focus on kind of the challenges of being your own boss or having your own business and being self-employed. So I'm wondering, and we'll start with Toni. Toni, what would you say is the biggest challenge that you've come up against? I know you talked about the insurance, and maybe that's it. Or what would you say is your biggest challenge of being your own company?
I think it's critical that you write a business plan and you sit down and you write the business plan, because even in the beginning, it wants you to write your mission and values. And as you're doing that, it's like, wow, I thought that was going to be easier than it was. And if you're using a good example, which I have a great one that I can share, that was given to me by the scores, the mentor, the business mentors, it made me stop and think, and I actually changed them and I upgraded it. It was really quite an experience to put together my business plan. And then when you talk about the marketing, so Isabel, when you're looking at the marketing, it forces you to really dig a little bit deeper. So if you don't establish that foundation, you're going to have a difficult time taking off. So do
Yes.
that business plan.
That idea of kind of knowing where you're going, right? Kind of having that one for you. You mentioned that the why is so important, and having that goal setting. Yeah. What about you, Isabel? What would you say has been your biggest aha or uh-oh?
So I relate a lot to that. I was working with SCORE and another local like small business organization until COVID. And then all the like meetings with them, because they're very personable and personalized and you can go one-on-one. But that was where I was headed, like, you know, the whole mission statement and business plan and all of that. And I was also in-person network marketing. That was gone. So yes, the biggest challenge definitely is getting out there and getting your name out there. I think there's nothing like word of mouth to get you going. Personally, for me, some of the challenges are I'm pretty ADD, so anything that is like repetitious and you know, just mundane kind of work, that's really challenging for me. I'm much better at like going out and doing some marketing stuff or teaching a workshop or talking to people. But you know, starting out, you got to do it all until you are more established, then maybe you can hire someone to help you out in the rest of it. But those parts are definitely challenging personally for me. But yeah, so, and then social media has been challenging because there's all these algorithms and there's millions and millions of people out there doing different things and way more interesting things than I'm doing. So even though I may be out there on all these social media platforms, I'm still learning, you know. I'm on TikTok. There's nothing PAC related on TikTok. There's very few Alzheimer's and dementia things on TikTok, which to me says it's an opportunity. It doesn't say like, oh, forget it. No, I think it's an opportunity. Oh, there's nobody here. Let me try this. And then I have one video that's have like 12,000 views. And then the rest of the videos are like, most of them in the 300s. So I'm trying to figure out, why did this one hit the 12,000s and why did these hit only in the 300s? So this social media aspect of it is also a challenge. I'm in my 40s, so this is like things navigated by a much younger crowd, you know? But even this younger crowd has parents or grandparents living with dementia, and they're putting stuff out there. So I'm trying to reach people in that way too.
I love it. So you talked about mundane. One of my biggest challenges is making myself do billing. Like, I just wish someone could do my billing for me. Just somebody do that. It's so boring to me. What about you, Crystal? What are you finding to be challenging in having your own business?
Saying no. I have so many moving parts and just really trying to keep each one separate and making sure that I spend a little bit of time on each one. But then also as a speech therapist, making sure that my physician that I'm partnered with understands that my mission and my goals are to stay with the people living with dementia and cognitive impairments. Whereas, you know, in what I do professionally, you know, we get stroke patients that don't have, you know, maybe not have dementia, and we have, you know, swallowing patients, and staying in that lane of, I want these. So that being said, I actually came up with a solution myself and I hired another speech therapist. So I have another speech therapist that works with me, and she takes most of those clients. And I also have trained her because I want to grow the practice. So she is going to be totally on board with PAC and doing some things with PAC too. So I'm in my 40s too. So she's about 12 years younger than me. So I say she's a mini me. So
yes. So I'm curious because you mentioned kind of this idea of, well, congratulations on having an employee. Wow, that's great. Like leaps and bounds way beyond my own business. What would you say, and this is for everyone, the biggest PAC tools that you use? So for me, I know when I went through consultant certification, that idea that I don't have to have all the answers. It's not like I am just giving this wisdom, but it's really that skill, which is so hard for a lot of us, which is empowering people to make those decisions. So for me, that consultant cycle is so helpful in taking me out of the equation that I don't have to have all the answers. Most times that, it's there. And so it just takes some digging and some curiosity. What about you, Isabel? What would you say are your biggest PAC tools that you're using with your business?
I would say that one of the things that I learned, or maybe it's not like official PAC, but I did learn in my PAC training, was they said, how do you eat a whole elephant? You take little bites, little bites, little bites. And that is something that I have to repeat to myself because I'm a big picture thinker, and that will get me overwhelmed because I'm like, I got to do all of this. And then I'm like, whoa, time out, breathe, little bites, little bites, little bites. So that definitely is something that I will repeat to myself and remind myself so that I don't get overwhelmed.
And that kind of goes back to what Crystal was saying with that no too. I mean, I love that. Just little bites, and not getting yourself overwhelmed. Crystal, what would you say is the biggest PAC tool that you bring into your business?
Shutting this and opening these.
Oh, that's so hard.
I know. I have today I had several aha moments where I had a new client, and the daughter was a speech therapist, and I thought that was interesting because she talked nonstop, and I realized by the end of the session that I didn't say maybe but 2 words. So I took a deep breath, but I really think that listening more and being more observant and talking less. And then I also use this every day. I don't know if you can see it out that way. Yeah, that's been a big tool for me. That's a big tool for me. I actually implemented that into all of my evaluations. So it's in our clinical model that we turn into Medicare now. So it's a big tool for me, really big tool for me. And I actually pull this out and I show it to families too, and they like it. So
awesome. So that gem state tool is it sounds like your go-to, but got that curiosity and that questions and listening. I love what you did, this, and really listening. That's so important. And that reflection to let people know that, hey, I did listen, I heard you, and I can reflect that back to you. Toni, what about you for a final word on what's your PAC tool that your go-to?
Well, I love the GEMS app. I just think that is really the bomb diggity. It has so much information, but also my peers. That is so helpful, so helpful.
Yeah, you've really utilized the community, and I love that. I think, there's such variation in our PAC certified community of folks that are super involved or folks that really just, they get the certification and then sometimes we don't hear from them for months or even until it's time for their research. But really, you get out of it what you utilize, right? And so I love that you're really using the community, and I know you've made some great contacts, and That's awesome. And that's what we want to do here at SUP is just support and show gems like yourself. So high five, everybody. Thank you for the great work you're doing. Oh, yay. Thank you. Thanks for being on tonight. And thanks for sharing a little bit about your businesses and just the great work that you guys are doing out there. So anything left, Matthew?
Yeah, if you guys want to contact any of these wonderful ladies and ask them more or explore more about what they're doing or just talk things out, you can check out their contact info on the TIPA Snow website. You can actually look up certified community members and try to reach out to them through there or through Facebook. I know these three ladies are very active on Facebook. And so checking them out there. We don't typically like to post emails anymore because those darn spam bots, they look for those emails and then they blow up that person's account. So we would post it if we could, but we just don't want them to get a ton of emails they really don't want or their junk box to fill up any more than it already does. So please, if you need their, or you're having trouble finding a contact info, you can comment on YouTube or on the Facebook post, and we'll do our best to support you in getting connected with these wonderful ladies to explore more. So thank you again for joining us. You guys are awesome. This was wonderful. What a great way to show how we can go out there and do these things and bring in all of these different pieces and sharing that with everybody, because there are folks out there who are looking for this right here. They're looking for, ooh, what do I do? What can I do? What's working? What's not? So you guys are awesome. And make sure to, just real quick, everybody, especially in the certified community, when we're talking about these skills or practicing these different things or trying things out, check out our open door on Fridays. It's open to all the certified community to come on and to practice your skills or ask questions, especially with this whole business side or the marketing piece, or just looking at other things that you would like to sharpen up a little bit or get some support on. So please, it's totally free for the certified community. Come join us on that open door on Fridays. And if you want more information on that, again, comment on there. If you're having trouble finding that, we'll support you and help you find that information.
And this week, Matthew, is the late night certified open door, the 9 Eastern on Thursday. So for the night owls among us, come play. Come play on Thursday night.
Yeah, and our international folks like that too. That time works a little bit better for some of their schedules than some of our midday stuff.
Yes. So thank you everyone for being on. We'll see you guys next week for another episode of Straight Up Positive. Thanks everyone.
Bye.
Bye everybody.